Hey, how's everyone doing? Today's podcast brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/IMLH Life. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
The IMLH show from Indie Music lives here on iTunes and SoundCloud.
If you have a dream, if you have something that you're compelled to do, and you know that it's your destiny, then you can't let that drone shit drive you.
It is another episode of the IMLH show. Appreciate everyone coming along. iTunes, SoundCloud, and of course, other places where you find podcasts such as Stitcher, etc. Joining us by phone today, we've got Vinny D out of San Diego. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm pretty good, man. Just excited to be here.
We're stoked to have you on as well, man. It's been a long time coming. I know we've had some reschedules over the last couple of months. We're here, we're ready to go. So let's dig into this a little more. Explain to our listenership musically what you're all about, man, and what people can expect if they went to one of your shows.
One of the biggest things for me, I'd say it's about the experience. A lot of my music and a lot of my lyrics are very based on like emotions and like personal experiences that people go through, and I want people to really connect with that. So the shows, like I've played shows where it's completely stripped down, like not even a PA system, and it's just me acoustic going and delivering a song that like I poured out from my heart to these other people, just hoping that they can share that experience. I like the idea of like making it like the olden times where like there wasn't like a sound system or anything, and it's just like you go to the local, I don't know, winery or whatever, and you try to catch your local artist to perform a song, and that's the only way you could do it. And granted, you can only do that so much because you need social media to get around, but I love the idea of doing that. So that's a big part of my music right there.
And how would you explain your music, man? So for someone listening to this podcast that ultimately is going to be not only hearing your music later on in the episode, but is interested in hearing more from you in the future, how would you elaborate on the sound? What would they expect out of music from Vinny D?
There's kind of two sides to it. Side A is very stripped, and I don't want to say basic, but the guitar work and the instrumentation work isn't anything crazy. There's no crazy modes or key changes or anything like that. It's very calm and relaxed, and if you want to play it on guitar yourself, you could do it, but it's just straightforward. And then side B, it kind of gets into some more in-your-face blues rock kind of influence things. I have this one song where it's a very stomp and holler influence thing, and it's made to just get you on your feet and clap and stuff. Most of my songs kind of jump from both of those sides, made to just give people a good time.
Vinny D hanging out with us by phone. He's based in San Diego. Found this guy on social media, post a lot of good work there, and we decided, hey, let's get him on the show. Hopefully we can get him out to more listeners and hopefully drive some people to his shows down south of us in the San Diego area. Who are some of the artists and or groups that maybe shape your sound? You've been doing this a while, but you're still of a relatively young age, man. So sound-wise, who would you say that's kind of geared towards, and some of the people that got you to this point that people might be familiar with?
I would say some of the bigger influences that people could recognize would be the Lumineers and this new band called Kaleo. The Lumineers, because a lot of their songs are very... They're not like normal songs. They're not like normal folk songs. They're just songs you hear on the radio. They talk about an issue or they tell a story, and they're very stripped back. When you listen to the recordings, you can tell that they didn't spend too much time on the editing process, and I admire that about them because to them it's more about the music, and it's not about adding in all these extra instruments or all this, I don't want to say unnecessary, but just extra stuff. And that's something I really admire about that. And when it comes to Kaleo, I would say they'd be an influence because just that blues rock soul, man. Those guys know how to play.
And how far back have you been doing music, man? Because you're just in your early 20s, correct?
Yeah, I'm 21.
21 years of age, man. How long have you been honing your craft? I know at a young age you're finally getting to the point where this is becoming more of a professional endeavor, but how long have you been not only tinkering with this, and how long of a time has this been coming to where you're ready to share your music with audiences throughout Southern California?
I would say I probably started around like, let's see, I was in middle school, so probably like, 8-9 years ago. I started out by playing the trumpet, really enjoyed it, but it's a very different type of performing. You're not so much like performing in front of a crowd and like you're the center of attention, you're part of an ensemble. But that really helped me basic understanding of music theory. And then I kind of took 2 years off just took it off. And then recently I picked up guitar and I've been like learning a lot more, and it almost feels like a day and night difference. Like one day I just woke up and I could play all these things and I was like, oh, cool. But it's been ever since like I was like 14, to be honest.
The IMLH Show from Indie Music lives here on iTunes and SoundCloud.
The website, vinnydmusic.com, VINNYDEEMUSIC.com. So, Vinny, with your stuff, man, you're really trying to drive new ears to your music via social media. So speak to us from a young musician's point of view about some of the things that have worked for you and also some of the things that haven't worked as well as you try to get more of a fan base to your work.
So I'd say the thing that worked the best, one of the things that worked the best was connecting with other musicians. If you find other musicians, whether they're a little bit better than you or a little bit, well, I don't want to say better, but a little bit more developed than you or a little bit less developed. If they're more developed than you, then they kind of see you as like somebody that's looking up to them and they appreciate that. And if it's the opposite, then they feel a little humbled because you're paying attention to them. And I've spent countless hours on Instagram just like commenting on other local San Diego musicians' pages and not just like for the sake of like getting a like or comment there, but actually like engaging and figuring out more about these musicians. It's helped me make more connections, get a fan base. It's helped me get lots of gigs too. So I'd say just connecting, like actually connecting and engaging with other musicians who are also trying to do the same thing. That's probably where the money's at. The least successful thing for me, I'd say, is probably just the idea of playing at any and every gig that you can possibly get. And good idea in theory, and sometimes it works for some people, but with my music, you really have to be in the mood or in the environment to listen to it. Like, it's nothing crazy, but if I go to like a bar that's usually playing, smooth jazz or hardcore rock, and this has happened to me, and I come in and I'm playing like my slow acoustic stuff and like meaningful things where people have to pay attention to the lyrics, then you may get, I don't know, maybe one person to follow you on social media, or you might get a tip. It's pretty important to screen where you play and screen who your audience is, just so that you don't waste their time and waste your time.
We always ask anyone who's on the show about their local music scene. Mm-hmm. I'm really intrigued by San Diego, one of my favorite places in the world. From a music standpoint, though, not something that I've dabbled in as far as a listener. Every time I go there, it's usually for a baseball game or to go to the beach. I haven't necessarily spent a lot of time at any of the local music venues. So speak to us, man, about some of the things that you've seen in the San Diego scene and how that's shaped you as an artist, the good and the bad.
Well, the San Diego scene, it's very welcoming. Like, it's super welcoming. Everybody's really nice. There's tons of open mics. Like, you could probably find 1 or 2 open mics per day if you wanted to. Lots of opportunities to play, and people are generally they're in a really good mood and they always support the music you play. This isn't really like a good or bad thing, but I have noticed that recently, at least, there's kind of this new wave of, I don't even know how to explain it really. It's kind of like acoustic R&B music. Like, it has the lyrical flow and rhythm of R&B and like mainstream hip hop music, but it's done on an acoustic, and they have like, 4 jazz chords, like an A-7 or something, just some random 4-chord jazz song. And it sounds really good and it's cool, but I've kind of noticed that that's what people are really into down here and not so much other things. And there's still a big scene for other, like, folk music, rock, reggae especially, but the biggest one for sure is that, like, acoustic R&B style playing. But other than that, it's really nice. Everybody here is super supportive of everybody, and they just love listening to music in general.
Live the IMLH life on Instagram. Search Indie Music Lives Here.
Vinny D hanging out with us by phone. He's on the gram at official Vinny D. Again, official Vinny D. Like him there and support the artists that make a show like ours possible. If you're listening to this show and you want to be a part of it, take some time, send an MP3 or a link to download your full-length release, album, or mixtape, along with a bit about yourself to AJ at imlhlife.com. Ultimately, even if it's not a situation where you have a full body of work yet, a song or two, get it to us. We will find a way to get you on the show and get you out to our 5 to 10 listeners and hopefully help you at least increase your fan base by 5 to 10 people. What would you say as an independent musician has worked best for you, man? Is it playing just gigs by yourself, or do you find yourself finding more of a reward teaming up with other musicians? What is your wheelhouse? Is it flying solo, or is it collaborating with other people in your area?
I would say that I've gotten the most success playing with other people, and mainly not necessarily just like collaborations, but just having like a mini band. I'm in one right now. Still fits the low-key vibe that I try to deliver. You know, there's a acoustic drummer and then a piano and a singer to harmonize with me. But that's where a lot of people pay attention to, because you have an overall louder sound, and you can deliver more emotions with more instruments. But there have been instances where it has been easier for me to deliver what I'm trying to deliver just by myself. Just certain songs I can really dig into and really pour out if it's just me and my guitar. It does depend on the song and the location, but I'd say the most success that I've gotten has been playing with a group. I've done some collabs with other musicians and doing songs together, and that's helped a lot for both of our fan bases.
One thing that I'm always curious about with musicians, no matter their level, whether it be gigging, touring, professional backup singer, or somebody that is doing work in the background for somebody else, or somebody that's signed to maybe a mid-major label, no matter where you are in your career, one thing that I'm always curious about is how people ultimately consume music, especially musicians nowadays. What I'm getting at, to offer a little context to that question, is in this day and age of streaming music, do you find yourself listening to more music via outlets such as Spotify, Pandora, etc., or are you still either a CD or a vinyl guy? Explain when it comes to actually listening to music, how you go about that, and how music is part of your daily life.
Definitely use streaming like Spotify a lot more, like a lot more. But few local musicians, off the top of my head, there's this guy, Gregory Wells, super talented guy down here. He's got a really crazy nice voice. He doesn't have a strong social media presence, but he gave me his demo, the only place you can find his music. I play that thing like every other day because it's really, really good. So some local musicians, I'll get a CD or a vinyl from them, and I'll pop it in, and that'll work just as well. But just because I spend so much time in my car, I probably use Spotify the most. And it's unfortunate for some of the local artists because a lot of people don't have the ability or don't even know how to get their music on Spotify, but it comes down to how easy it is to listen to. And it's just as simple as starting my car, connecting my Bluetooth, and I can listen to hundreds of thousands of artists if I wanted to, versus digging around for a CD of this one guy that I found and just trying to find a CD player, which are oddly enough going out of style now. So a matter of how convenient it is.
The IMLH show from Indie Music Lives here on iTunes and SoundCloud.
For you, the listeners of the IMLH show, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out the service. As of late, I've been feeling the need to be inspired. Like, now's the time. The IMLH life finally gonna become something. We're gonna make something of not only the show, but also ourselves. So I've been listening to Crush It, Why Now is the Time to Cash In on Your Passion by Gary Vaynerchuk, and that's just one of 180,000 titles you can choose from. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/IMLHlife. Again, that's audibletrial.com/IMLHlife for your free audiobook. So with you, man, you've got the single on Spotify called I Love You, which will feature toward the back end of our conversation. When it came time for you to release that single, did you use a service such as a CD Baby or one of those to get it on the streaming services, or talk about what worked for you in terms of this particular song to get it out to people? Because that seems to be a huge battle, especially with, I'm gonna say it, with the older crowd. They seem to struggle in terms of realizing that they are going to get more impressions through streaming services such as Spotify, Pandora, etc. than they ever will in this day and age giving people CDs. While that's all well and good, the investment is less getting out to a streaming service as it is to actually press physical copies, man. So when it came time for you to get I Love You out to more ears, what worked best for you, and what made that possible?
So I did use CD Baby, and they're really awesome. They take care of a lot of things. They even do the whole legal copyrighted thing for an additional smaller price, and it just helps with getting it to all major platforms. And I'd say digitally, just getting the song on Spotify or iTunes and then getting that link and like making a small little message and just sending it, like DMing tons of people, emailing, doing it, all that type of stuff to a bunch of people individually. Because I have a lot of friends and family that live in Massachusetts. That's originally where I'm from. So I obviously wouldn't be able to get a CD out to them. So what worked for me was just doing that, just getting that link out there and just personally emailing and messaging tons of people, like hundreds. Even if, the way I look at it, if you, and this is for gigs too, if you email, I don't know, 100 people, you'll probably only get anywhere from 10 to 35 actual people that are engaged in it. The other 65 just are going to be like, oh, okay, cool, nice, or they may not even acknowledge it at all. And that's just the way it is, especially when you're starting out. But if you're able to do that with every song or every gig that you try to do and get 100 or 200, that's 70 people right there. And then if you just keep doing that, eventually you'll develop that fan base, so you'll get that steady flow of gigs. But it's just, it all comes down to how willing you are to email every single person that you think would be interested, talking to them about your song or that gig that you're trying to play. It's a matter of personal strength, if that makes sense. But definitely online was the easier route for that.
You almost have to put your judgment aside, because a lot of times musicians, artists in general, they battle with sharing their art with other people because they might be worried about how it's received, one, or just the fact of the time that it takes to get it out to people through email and through social media. It takes time ultimately to promote yourself, and then you put it out there, and then you're left to wonder whether people like it or not. It's just the way it is. As a artist, you struggle always with how the reception is going to be, man. Like you said, man, it all really comes down to strength and how much you're willing to put yourself out there without concern for what the reaction might be.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, if you just put a song out there and you're like, awesome, I put a song, I'm going to get a bunch of views, and you don't do any promoting or don't tell anybody about it, unless if you're like as big as, like, I don't know, Justin Bieber, and nobody's really going to pay attention. There's just the odds of you getting the viewing that you expect. It's slim to none. So you really have to, especially in these early stages, you really have to push to get it out there. You have to email people, because it's not like they don't like you, it's just they don't know. They literally don't know anything that's going on with you unless if you email them, unless if you constantly post on social media. It's like a second job, honestly. It just goes down to how badly you want it. If you really want it, then you're willing to spend those 10 hours on social media and emails just getting at people and trying to do something with your work.
And talk about that balance, man, between your job as a musician and doing something you love versus the battle of doing something that you have to do to pay the bills, man. How do you balance the music and writing, performing, gigging with what you have to do to basically keep the lights on?
It's honestly 24 hours. It's like working 24 hours. And it's just like the moment you get home, it's like, all right, what do I have to do today in order to better my music? There's no real off days. And you can obviously take one, but if you just put out a song, are you really you have to promote that song. If you're looking to play a gig that week or the following week, you have to reach out to people and not just like say like, oh, hey, my name is so-and-so, here's my stuff. Like you got to make a small EPK for them. You got to make sure it's presentable. It's like making a little resume when you get a gig, and you get what you put in. If you're only going to put in like an hour worth of promoting and stuff, then you may not get that many gigs. And it's a lot of times it may feel like there's not enough hours in the day because, like you said, there's working, and then there's promoting and getting your music and gigs out there, and then there's developing these songs. You don't want to keep playing the same songs, it's the same covers or whatever. So it's a typical day. Like today, if I was at work today, it would literally be like wake up, go to work, come home at like 4 o'clock. Maybe I'd have an hour to write or to promote. I can't really do both. And then I would head out to an open mic. That way I can perform a newer song of mine and I can promote any shows I got. Get home at like probably 9 o'clock, go right back to social media and just promote and just engage, and then go to sleep at like 11, wake up and just repeat. So it is tough. You don't have much free time to do non-work related or non-music related things, but it just all goes back to how bad you want it. If you only want to make it a hobby, then you're going to get hobby results. If you want this to be a career and you want it to be what you do for the rest of your life, then you have to put in that work in order to get there. You know what I mean?
A Vinny D gig, is it a mix of originals and covers? Say somebody was in the San Diego area and they wanted to see your show. What would they expect when it comes to the set list, man? Speak to us about that.
It would be a mix of covers and originals. I like to proportionate like 2/3 are originals and 1/3 are the cover. So like this past show I played, there's this really cool venue called The Stats. It's next to a coffee shop, and they have this big stage of like professional PA, these lo-fi lights. It's a really good place. And I had 8 songs, and I did like, I think five or six of them were originals. And I like to balance it out. I like to start out with kind of like moderate tone, some originals, and then I'll kind of break it up and do some covers. And they're usually covers that people know, or they're either covers that they know or covers that people can jam to, whether they're really fun or just really catchy. At that point, I'll kind of strip it back and I'll take it back to that emotional setting that I was talking about. I'll make like 2 or 3 songs where I really try to connect with the crowd and I really try to just to feel with them. I actually got a message from somebody from the last gig I played, and she said she was crying during one of the originals, and like I felt bad, but that's kind of what I want to do, because I really, really want to try to connect with people on an emotional level. I try to make it a perfect balance of upbeat songs, covers that people can relate to, and then those originals where I really like pour my heart onto. And I've also played gigs where it's only covers and I'm just doing like a cover thing. I've played some where it's just originals. but on average, I try to balance it out like that.
And what are some of your go-to covers, man? Let's just say you have a crowd that's underwhelming. Say they're just sitting down, enjoying their drinks, not really participating or involved with what you're doing, man. What are some of the go-tos that you like to play in those situations, man? What is in your wheelhouse when it's time to get people out of the seats? What are some of the covers that you like to play?
I'd say the biggest one, and it's pretty stereotypical cover-wise, but Ho Hey is probably the most successful cover, just because everybody knows it. They all know that Ho part. When you start screaming it, they're like, oh my gosh, it's that one band. And everybody loves it. All ages love it. And it's a fun song. People always sing along. Another one that I've had great success with, so I do this cover of Alicia Keys' If I Ain't Got You, but instead of like the slow piano, I kind of turn into like this fast-paced folk song, and it's like really, really fast-paced, and the guitar work in it is it's fairly intricate. I'll always start out loud, and people will be like, oh, what's this? And then I'll start singing, and like the verses are very, very quiet, or not very, very quiet, but they're quiet and quieter than the intro, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's this song, and then they usually get pretty amped up. And come the chorus, that's when everything gets much louder, and people start singing along, and it's a great time whenever I play that one. I'm actually going to be releasing a video of that one at some time soon, because I've had a lot of success with it. And if I were to do a third one, there's this band called Foxtrot. They're this local SoCal indie rock band, and they have this one song called I'll Be Back For You. And it's a fast-paced one as well. It's in a minor key, but it's fast-paced. It has a very interesting tone to it. That's always seems to be one where I get lots of cheers for and lots of woos during it, just because of how fast-paced and energetic it is.
Live the IMLH life on Facebook. Search Indie Music Lives Here.
Vinny D hanging out with us from San Diego. His website, it is vinnydmusic.com, and follow him on IG, official Vinny D. Again, at official Vinny D, OFFICIALVINNYDEE. Are you really just focusing on gigging, or what's from you, whether it be more gigs or EP, record, working with the band that you're in? Just speak to us about what's on tap for you.
Yeah, so we just finished the recording part of the 6-track EP that we got coming on. Now we're going to start editing it. We're going to probably spend another few months editing just to take our time with it. That's the next big thing. And I'll be gigging around here and there, kind of doing some of the bigger but local areas to gig at. And then once I have this EP completed and everything's all said and done, I'm going to schedule a mini, just a local tour, nothing crazy, like the local towns, maybe even like the next state over, like Nevada or Arizona. I know at that point, like I'm not going to have like a fan base at those areas, but it'll just be a chance for me to, for one, travel, because I love traveling, and share my music with people from those areas, so that when I do come back and it's even bigger and better, they'll remember me as that local San Diego kid who brought some cool tunes, and they'll see this new artist who's developing and who has all this new stuff, and they'll be like, wow, I can't believe it's only been this long and he's now at this point. So that's kind of what I've got in store coming up. I take it very slowly though. Just one, regular work, you got to eat somehow. And two, I like to take my time with these things. I don't want to rush into it, and I don't want to be in a situation where I have all of this content but I rushed into it so it's all underdeveloped or it's not special or anything, or it just sounds bad. It's going to go by slowly, but the next step is definitely that EP, which should be coming out midsummer. And then I'm also going to be starting it's an interesting concept. It's basically, for every song that I write that I keep, I probably have 2 or 3 songs that I've written that I decide to discard. So I'm going to start doing this album series thing called The Untold Stories of Vinny D, and that one's just going to be solo, but that's going to be all of those songs that I discard. And for that, I'm not going to care so much about whether people like it or not. It's just kind of it's a chance for me to show people the songwriting process for me, and also to give them the opportunity to listen to some of these songs versus having no other human being and no other soul listen to them. I mean, you might as well, you know? So that one's going to be solo, and that one's probably going to be in the fall. And then the group one, that one's going to be in July.
Awesome, man. We look forward to hearing that. And we love the single that will play in just a matter of minutes here on the episode of the IMLH show called I Love You. Be sure to stream and download the single from Vinny D and support the artists that make a show like ours possible. Well, man, I won't waste any more of your time this afternoon, but I do appreciate you staying with us and remaining interested in being on. I know it's kind of been back and forth. Life has gone the way, but stoked that we were able to make this happen today. And anything that we can do for you and your group, let us know, man. And then when that EP is ready to go, we'd love to have you back on, and we'll feature it in its entirety on another episode.
Yeah, man, sounds good. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, and definitely as soon as it comes out, you'll be one of the first ones to know.
Vinny D, the website vinnydmusic.com, and follow him on the gram at officialvinnyd. Well, man, stay in touch, and good luck to you. And if I'm down in San Diego, man, I'll look you up and come check you out.
Sweet, sounds good. Thank you.
Tired of crying, babe. I'm feeling down. Stuck on a crossroads. The time has come now. I'm trying so hard to control how I feel. How I feel. Bought a new ring for you. It sparkles with green. I want you to be mine. This ain't no dream. But girl, my heart burns with the fear of a girl who's stuck in these times. Girls these days want the love of a lover all the time. So promise you won't cry too hard. Whoa. Promise me you'll live, you'll thrive, you'll love, you'll die. I love you, I love you, I love you, I really do. But it's time to say goodbye. So fragile now, you know it's hard. I told you that I was the one. The flame won't die. But love ain't the issue, it's trust that keeps fucking my mind. So we're taking my rock back. Keep the time. So promise me remember me when I go away. Whoa, I know I won't live, I won't thrive, I won't love, I won't die. I love you, I love you, I love you, I really do. One day you'll thank me for this time. I love you, I love you, I love you, I really do. I love you, I love you, I love you, I really do.
The IMLH show from Indie Music Lives here on iTunes and SoundCloud.